Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on my channel. This is a place where I talk to you about things that I've been making over the last few weeks. It's really good to have you here and I hope you enjoy the things that I've got to talk to you about today. It's the end of January and I'm going to use this as an opportunity really to share all the WIPS that I've got on the go at the moment. It's been a really long time since I've done a regular podcast. Last May was the last time I did one. I did a quick video in December sharing the gift knits that I've been making, but this is my first sort of proper podcast back after that break. So I have got quite a lot to talk to you about today, and I'm really excited actually. I've been looking forward to doing this, but I thought the end of January was a good place to start. So I'm going to get straight into it. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a bit WIPS to share with you. I'm not going to show you any finished objects because we'd be here for ages, because I've got quite a few things that I finished since last May. But if there's anything from my last episodes that were WIPS then that you're interested in knowing how they turned out, do just drop me a line or leave a comment below and I will share that in a future video. But for today we're drawing a line under everything and just starting with the WIPS that I've got on the go. So the first one is quite an exciting one for me. It's a sweater for my daughter. Long-term viewers of this podcast will know that my daughter, who is now 21, has been vehemently opposed to anything hand knit from her dear mother for various reasons. However, end of last summer, I think the tide has started to turn, because she asked me if I would knit her a sweater. Actually no, perhaps she was worn down with the badgering that I was giving her about wanting to make her something, but anyway, she agreed that I could make her a sweater. I am so honoured. And she's quite particular about what she likes to wear, and I have conceded to make her exactly what she wants for this particular occasion, for this particular item. We spent a long time looking online at styles of jumpers that she liked. It took quite a long time because she was quite fussy. However, we found one. I'll pop a picture of it up here. We found a sweater from a designer called Daisy and Peace, and it was her sweater 01. The yarn that it called for was a brand that I'd never heard of before and I could only find in one shop in the UK. Let me just go back a step. My daughter really wanted a sweater that looked like a sweater she has already from Primark. It's cream and navy blue thick stripes, drop shoulder. I think it's made using a fisherman's rib type stitch. It might just be 1x1 ribbing, I don't know. But she was quite keen that that sweater looked like that. And so this particular sweater, picture here, seemed to fit the bill. There are a number that look like this, but she didn't like the way the stitches fell at the neckline. So we went with sweater 01. This is the yarn that, the colours that she chose. So a blue and cream palette. And this is the yarn. It's Yarn Art Jeans Plus. This is a cotton, I think it's cotton and acrylic. It says 55% cotton, 45% PAC. I'm not sure where it's, oh, it's Turkish yarn. and it's really weird actually. It's have I got any? Okay, this will probably be quite hard to show you, but it's oh, I don't think it's going to, that probably isn't showing it very well. Maybe actually it's really, it really twists in on itself. This piece isn't doing it, but it's incredibly tightly plied and very, very twisty, and it gets tangled quite a lot. So it's not the most interesting, not the most pleasant yarn to work with, although it's really soft, so from that perspective it's nice. Right, so this sweater 01, I could not get gauge no matter what needle I used. The sweater calls for, I think it's either 4 or 5 mil needles. I think it's 5 mil, and I went down and down and down and down in needle size. I was not getting gauge at all. I was way off, and eventually I had to stick with 3.5 mil needles because it was just getting too uncomfortable to work with the tightness of the yarn that was being created, of the fabric rather. So, excuse me, gauge was an issue. The other thing that was an issue about this particular pattern was there was no indication on the information on Ravelry that it was knit in pieces, which is not really how I don't have anything in particular that I don't like about knitting in pieces. I just would have preferred to knit in the round. I knew it was bottom up, but there was nothing to suggest that it was a seamed garment. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed when I started, when I looked at the pattern. Even more disappointed when I couldn't get gauge. And this piece of fabric, which is huge, I mean look, you can see it's massive on me. My daughter is much slimmer than I am, and this is knit in the smallest size. So I have no idea how the designer got gauge in the needle, with the needles that she was using and the yarn that she was using, which is this yarn. So I gave up. I'm keeping this as a memento of that disastrous experience. And so I went back to the drawing board. I told my daughter, who's away at university, that I was giving up because it was just not working. And I sent her an alternative, I sent her the pictures of an alternative garment, sweater. And it seems that in the intervening time between talking about it and realising that she was going to get a sweater knit by her mother, that her pickiness disappeared, and she was quite happy with the item, with the pictures that I sent her. We're still using the same yarn. We're still using these three colours, and the garment that I am now making is the Sonja sweater by PetiteKnit, and again I'll put another picture up here. And I have made some cracking progress. I'm making size 1, which is the smallest size, and this is where we've got to. Hold it that way maybe. Oh no. This is darkest blue. It's not exactly how the colours appeared online, so it doesn't work fantastically well with these colours, but it's good enough. And I'm quite pleased with it. So it's a drop shoulder. I'm just going to hold it up on here. It's a drop shoulder sweater. You start at the back, at the shoulders, and you work down. Is this right? I'm sure it is. You work down, keep the stitches on hold once you've got past the armhole shaping, and then you pick up at the shoulders work the front yoke panel, join in the round, and then you knit, knit, knit all the way down to the hem. I have reached the point at which I think the hem is going to start. My daughter doesn't want a cinched in rib, so I'm just working out how we're going to do that. I might just make it a straight rib, although it's quite a big oversized garment, but anyway, that's to be worked out. And then pick up for the sleeves, neckband. I think it's probably a folded over neckband, which will look very nice, and then the item will be done. Although I said I wasn't enjoying knitting with this because of how tightly plied it is, it actually creates a really nice, quite heavy but nice warm feeling fabric. So I think this might be quite a nice sweater to wear, and I'll be honest, I am quite tempted to make myself both this sweater and potentially using that yarn, but we'll see about that. Yeah, so I'm quite pleased with that. This is going to be my main focus over the next few weeks. I'd really like to get this finished so that it can be worn in the colder months. So yeah, so that was a tale of woe to redemption, I think. Yeah, don't think there's anything else to say about that. I will obviously keep you abreast with progress. I would be very hopeful that come the end of February, which is probably when I'll record again, this may well be a finished item, but we shall see. Right, where shall I put this? I've got so many bags on the floor here. I'm going to pop it there. And on to item 2, which is another knit for another lovely member of my family. It's another garment knit. So, as well as knitting my daughter's first garment, I am also knitting my mother's first garment. And the item, sorry, I'm just getting everything out of bags. The item that I am knitting, oh gosh, here we go, is, you can tell I'm out of practice. The item that I'm knitting is the Tolster Tee by Rebecca Clow, not sure how you say it, but picture up here for reference. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Tolster Tee. It's been a hugely popular pattern since it was released last summer, perhaps, spring, summer. And I've been wanting to make one for myself, but last autumn I decided to make my mum one because she's had a few hats from me, she's had some gloves from me, but she's never had a garment that she can wear, and I thought it might be quite nice for her to have something to wear in the spring and summer. So we'll start with the yarn. I'm using Rowan Pima Cotton DK, so obviously a DK weight yarn. This is in the colourway Clay, and it was very kindly gifted to me from a very lovely friend. Thank you. It's being put to extremely good use. Okay, I am knitting size 3. I just about got gauge. I've got my gauge swatch here, I think. Just about got gauge. I think I'm using, no, I'm not using the recommended needles. We may have a problem because I can't remember what needles I'm using, and I haven't made a note of them, and the needles aren't in my project bag, but that's a problem for later down the line. There's my gauge swatch. I might be able to work it out because I did that thing where you do yarn overs to indicate the size needle that you're working on. But I'll need to work out which one of these two is the fabric I like. I think it's probably this one, and I should be able to work it out from there. Right, I was just finishing off about the gauge swatch, and this is how far we have got. It's got a beautiful drape, this fabric. It's got beautiful colour. It's a little bit darker than is showing up on the screen. The light from the window is blowing it out a little bit. It's not too bad. So yeah, so you cast on at the neckline with a rib. It's a raglan construction, so very straightforward. You do your raglan increases at the same time as doing the yoke and the back, split for the sleeves, and then knit, knit, knit all the way down. And I'm about to start the hem. I started knitting this, gosh, I can't remember when, but I think it might have been October, November time. I think October time, maybe even September. Anyway, that's by the by. It had been on hiatus because I wanted my mum to try it on, and she lives a few hundred miles away from me, so I don't get to see her that often. But I saw her in December. She tried it on. It fit beautifully, actually. So I am now ready to complete the rib, pick up for the sleeve stitches, and I'm going to do a sort of just above the elbow length sleeve for Mum, and then it will be ready to go. So that is the second thing that I would like to work on after I've finished the Sonja sweater. I'm quite keen to make one of these for myself as well, so we could be doubling up on the Sonja sweater and the Tolster tee. The yarn, the Rowan Pima cotton, it's really lovely to work with, really lovely and soft for a cotton, but unfortunately this yarn has been discontinued, which is a shame because I would like to knit with it again, but anyway, it is what it is. Right, so that's project number 2 done. Project number 3 is something for me. And it's another garment, but it hasn't had a huge amount of work on it. Now I cast this on in early November. I don't know what I was thinking with having all these sweaters on the go, but I cast it on in early November, and I was inspired to cast this on. It's a ranunculus, I should say. It's my first ranunculus. I'm sure, like the Tolster tee, most of you will be fully aware of what the ranunculus is. I have had the pattern for years but never actually been that tempted to make one. But over the course of sort of the middle of last year, I saw quite a few podcasters making a ranunculus out of a cotton linen fabric yarn, and they look lovely. I know that Bethany from Well Love Knits made one, or I think she made a couple. Can't remember who else, but I had also seen Jane from Stitches and Cream on her lovely podcast. She had knitted a dark blue version, not in cotton, all in, I think it was in a wool, but I just fell in love with it, and it was one of those projects that I couldn't quite get out of the back of my mind. And so I realised that I had in stash a bag of navy blue Drops Bell, and I had bought this to knit a second thea top. I made a thea top, can't remember who the pattern is by, but I'd made a thea top last summer and I really enjoyed wearing it, and it was knit from Drops Bell in a cream colour. So I had bought some navy blue to make a second one but never got round to it. Drop Spell is a cotton viscose linen mix, and I really like knitting with it, but I decided on a whim to cast on a ranunculus because I just fancied making one, and this is as far as I have got. It's a little bit tangled up because it's been in my bag untouched for quite a long time. Let's work out the best way to show you. Here we go. Is that right? I'm not sure what the front and what the back is, but that is the progress that I have made. So as you can see, not very much. It will look like not very much at all at the moment. I'm a little way down the lace work. No, that's really hard to show. I apologise. Once I've made a bit more progress, I'll share this with you again. I'm really enjoying working the different stitches, and I'm hopeful that this will be a nice, quite lightweight item to wear in the spring and summer. It will need a thin tank underneath because it's quite see-through gauge, quite a large gauge. But if this goes well, then I suspect I will be joining the ranunculus multi-knit bandwagon because I can see why people enjoy making them so much. Working on 6mm needles, I don't yet know what size I'm going to make. I don't want it really oversized. I'd like it fairly sort of a standard fit rather than an oversized fit, but we'll see. The lovely thing about that particular pattern, I think, am I right in thinking that you cast on the same number of stitches no matter what size you're making? There are different cast-ons depending on whether you want a wide neck or a more crew neck, and I think I'm making the crew neck, but I might be wrong. I'll need to go and check my notes, assuming I made some notes. Anyway, yeah, that's my ranunculus. That will see some more action once my other two garments have been finished. But yeah, really enjoying that. Okay, that is it, I think, for sweaters. 3 on the go at any one time is more than enough for me. I am normally a three project person. I normally like to have a sweater, pair of socks and something else small on the go at the most. So 3 sweaters is a lot for me. Anyway, I'm now going to talk about something that I have absolutely loved working on over the last few months. It's crochet, and I was hugely inspired by Gaynor of Tales from Cuckoo Land and her beautiful granny wrap shawl. I had seen it on her podcast and I had the pleasure of seeing it in person, and Gaynor at one of the Woolay retreats last autumn, and I knew, had I started one at that point? I think I might have done. Yes, I did, because I was working on it at the retreat, but it was like maybe a teeny tiny triangle at that point. But I've made a huge amount of progress. It is a really addictive knit. The pattern is the Granny Wrap Triangle by Annaboo's House. It's a free pattern. It's written for DK weight yarn, but I am using fingering weight yarn, and I'm using lots and lots of minis and ends of yarns from other projects, and this is the progress that I have made, and it's a stand-up project because it's that big. Can you see it all? Oh, it's lovely. Oh, I love it so much. It is massive, and I have reached the point where I need to decide, is it at the, have I finished it or not, basically. I wanted it to be big enough to give me a real cuddle on a cold winter's evening, and I mean it does, but it could go bigger. But I have rarely, you will all know that I love knitting, and it's what I do when I'm not working. Every evening I knit. Every day pretty much when I finish work I knit. Every morning pretty much I knit. I love it. But I have enjoyed working on this so much, despite the repetitiveness of it. It's just been such an enjoyable knit. Crochet. But I really do need to decide whether, oh, I'm pulling out stitches here. I do need to decide whether it has come to an end or whether I might go a few rows further. I will decide. The beauty of it is, I suppose, I can stop, and if I decide I want to go any bigger, then I can start again. However, I have got minis to make a second one, because I will be making a second one. So I might call it a day with this one, actually. Thinking off the hoof, is that the right phrase? If I start again, if I want an even bigger one, then I can just make that second one even bigger, because I know that one will be a big one as well. But anyway, yeah, so I know there are quite a few people making one of these at the moment, and I can fully understand why. It's fun playing with colours. My colour selection was pretty random. I had a big basket of minis, and the only thing I didn't do was to use colours that were too close, too similar next to each other. They could be one away, but I didn't want like two pinks next to each other or two blues next to each other. And I changed yarns every single row pretty much, there or thereabouts. Sometimes, especially as the rows got longer, some of the yarn ran out before the end of the row, so I have got a few rows where there are multiple yarns. But yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And I think I am going to call it a day, actually. So there you go. We've got an unofficial FO sneaking in there. I should say it weighs 535 grams, just to give you an idea if you're thinking about making one. And I would highly recommend it if you are. Right. Next project, there's always a sock on the go, isn't there? And this is my current sock. It's a vanilla sock. I often get asked when I do podcasts, what's a vanilla sock? A vanilla sock is just basically a plain knit sock without any patterning or texture or anything like that. Just a knit, round and round and round. And here it is. Sock number one of this pair. So what I've done, I cast on 60 stitches for my socks, and I knit about 16 rounds of 2x2 rib in this contrast colour, and then how many rounds did I do for the leg? I can't remember, but it was maybe about 30. I have made a note somewhere. The main sort of focus of interest of this particular sock is the heel, and I had been watching last week Denise from Earth Tones Girl showing a sock that she had recently knitted, which had utilised the mini heel flap from one of the Knitting Expats sock patterns. I can't remember which one, but I will link it below. and Denise had combined that with a shadow wrap heel, so a short row heel, and I thought I would try that just to see. It's always nice to do something a little bit different sometimes when you knit a lot of socks. So what the shadow wrap, what the mini heel flap does, you basically knit a few rows of the heel flap. If you're used to knitting heel flap and gusset socks, you will understand this. If you're not a sock knitter, bear with me. But you start off a heel flap and gusset, and then you go into your short row heel. And then once you've completed the heel process, you then decrease the extra stitches that you'd picked up along the edge of your mini heel flap. And what that is supposed to do is just to give you a little bit of extra room in the instep around the top of your above your heel. So we will see. I haven't tried it on yet. I think I've just about got to the point where I'm going to be thinking about putting my toe in, and I'm going to use the same purple for the toe. Here is the purple. And that is what I have got left for this sock. Whoops. That's what I've got left for this sock of the yarn. I'm using a 50-gram skein of yarn for the main body of the sock in this speckly yarn. There's the other one. And I actually have another skein here. I really like this. And shall I tell you something? I don't think I mentioned this in my last podcast. I can't quite remember. I may have done. So if I did, forgive me. But I have started dyeing my own yarn, which I'm hugely excited about. And this is one of the test skeins that I did when I very first started practicing last autumn. I didn't put these in the shop. I'm sorry, I can't help doing that. I love this so much. I'm so excited about this whole new venture. I didn't put this in the shop because I wasn't 100% sure what makeup of yarn this was. I think it's an 80-50 knot. I know it's superwash merino nylon, but it wasn't the standard 75-25 that I went on to dye. I'm pretty sure it's an 80-20, 85-15 merino nylon. It's very soft. I've got a couple of these skeins. I've got a nice little stash actually of yarns that would be okay to put in the shop, but they were all sort of tests, and I have kept them all for me to knit from. But yeah, so I was going to call this Posy. That's how it knits up, and I'm thoroughly enjoying using my own yarn for the first time ever. Well, almost the first time ever. I've got another one, another project that does use my own yarn to show you in a minute. But anyway, so sock number 1 is on the go. I'm using bamboo needles, 2.25mm. I'm really enjoying knitting this pair of socks. They will be finished by the time I record again. Okay, the next project is, now I realise I haven't been showing you my project bags because I'm not a very good podcaster and I'm not a very good shop owner, but all the projects so far have been in my own project bags that I make. If you're new around here, by the way, I run Eldenwood Craft, which is where which is my online business, and I make project bags and I now dye yarn. However, this project I will show you the project bag for because it's from a very dear friend, Sarah, and she is not a project bag maker, but blimey, she has made this really beautiful Japanese rice bucket style bag from really precious fabric to her that she picked up when she was in Spain. I'm pretty sure it was Spain. And she, yeah, that was a really lovely gift to receive. And in here, I have placed an almost finished project that was quite interesting to make. I'm not a big shawl knitter anymore. I used to be, but I just don't really wear them nowadays, particularly now as I work from home. I do quite often wear a cowl to keep my neck warm, but I hardly ever wear a shawl. However, I saw a picture of this pattern on Instagram over the summer, and I was really taken with it, and I just had to make it. I'll put a picture of it here. The pattern is and you'll have to forgive my pronunciation, I'm pretty sure this is Swedish. It's the Shallen Inga by Maria Roberts. The pattern, it's a oh, do you call them a kite style shawl? It's that sort of, I realise I'm going off the top of the screen, but it's that sort of shape with a central spine running up the middle. And so the pattern was only written in Swedish. Did I know that when I purchased it? I think I might have done, but I didn't care. Nothing was stopping me from knitting this shawl. I used Google Translate, I think I must have done, which was interesting because there are lots of abbreviations in the pattern, and some of the terminology didn't really translate properly. But I got there through a little process of trial and error, and the pattern requires you to knit the body of the shawl and then edge it with an I-cord. A little bit like the Vertices Unite, if you know, if you're familiar with that pattern. And I have got to the stage now where I need to do the I-cord. And I'm going to stand up again because I can, and here it is, kind of. Oh. So, essentially, it's a 4-row repeat paid for pattern. You start off at this end and you knit in alternating colours, green and cream. I'm using the same kind of colours that are in the original pattern, and you knit with this central spine, knit, 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 knit. Ignore the mistake that I made there. And once you get to a certain point, you stop increasing and start decreasing. It's been a while since I worked on this, I can't remember exactly. And then when you've got as far as you want to go, you stop, which is where I've got to, and then you work an I-cord around the edge. The yarn that I have used for this, the cream, is a Drops Flora in the natural colour, and the green, and here is what I have got left, is an Eldenwood Craft. This is a skein of yarn that I over-dyed last summer when I was just starting to have a practice. I found some skeins that I knew I wasn't going to use, and this was one. It was a yellow and a blue, and I over-dyed it with some green, and it came out with this. I'm really pleased with that, actually. I would never be able to recreate it, but I'm going to have a go at some similar greens. So yeah, so this is nearly done-ish. I need to decide what colour of border I'd like to do. I'm thinking brown, but part of me would quite like to do something fun like an orange or a rust, but I'll decide when it comes round to working on this again, I will decide. I started this in September and probably took a few weeks to get to there, and then I just stopped because of all the other projects that were on the go. And now I've lost the project bag. There it is. So yeah, so that's the Shalon Inga by Maria Roberts. That translates as, I think, Inga's shawl. So another project that will get some attention when everything else is finished. Okay, I have got one and a bit others to talk to you about, and this one is really very simple and straightforward. I cast this on last weekend purely because I was intrigued by it, and there's very little actually about it to get intrigued by. I can't remember where I saw it. I might have been reading someone's Substack, knitting Substack. But anyway, the pattern is the 100 Stitch Snood by No Frills Knitting, and this is what we have got so far. So not very much. There you go. The yarn I'm using is leftovers from my holiday penny mitt knitting. That's not going to show terribly well because of the light. Yeah, not showing great. But it's Drops Nord in the Deep Ocean colourway. And this is a free pattern, so I can tell you a bit about it. You cast on 100 stitches with a... the pattern calls for a fingering weight yarn. This is a sport weight yarn. You cast on 100 stitches, you knit until you've got 4 meters left of yarn, and then you bind off with a stretchy bind off. It asks you to use a 50-gram skein of yarn, and it just sits just quite snugly, not tightly, but snugly around your neck, a little bit like those snoods that walkers and cyclists wear to keep the neck warm. I think that's the idea behind it, and I just thought it was such a simple idea, but it could probably be quite effective, so I was interested to see how it would turn out. As I said a little while ago, I am wearing cowls quite a lot at the moment, so yeah, I just thought the simplicity, as I said, the simplicity of it really intrigued me. So yeah, that'll be a project to pick up when I've got a few minutes spare and need something simple to work on. Okay, the other final work in progress that I've got on the go at the moment is Nana the Lady Duck. When I say I've got it on the go at the moment, I mean I haven't picked it up since the last time I showed it on the podcast, which was probably last spring. It's a knitted little duck from the book Moosh and Friends by Cynthia Valet. I've got a copy of it over there. I was really taken with the hype around this book. It's an absolutely beautiful book. I cast on Nana pretty much as soon as I got the book, and I haven't touched it since. I have lost my enthusiasm for toy knitting a little bit, but I would really like to have my little toy duck finished at some point, so we'll see. Maybe that's a plan for this year. Talking of which, that is all my knitting that is on the go at the moment. Plans for the year really are very simple. I'm not really making any plans knitting wise, other than really each thing I cast on will be complementary to my wardrobe. So I want to make things that work for my wardrobe rather than things that are that don't suit me, they're not colours that I would wear, they're not things that I don't need. I want to make quite functional things for this year and see how we go. And that's really my only plan. I may break it, I'm sure there will be some things that don't fit into that that criteria, but we'll see. That's my intention for the year. So just a couple of other little things. Oh, before I finish, well, I haven't finished yet, hang on, I've got another 10 minutes, something like that. What I'm wearing, this is the Stockholm sweater by PetiteKnit. I knit this about 2 years ago using yarn from Isea. I used a fingering weight and a silk mohair. I hardly ever wear this because it is slightly on the large side. I knit it to gauge, I knit it to size, but I sort of overestimated how big a size I would need. So I'd be quite tempted to make another one of these in a smaller size. So that might be on the plans for this year. I really would like to make a vest or a tank for the summer and winter. I'd like to make a colourwork tank. But anyway, plans, ideas in my head that will not come to fruition later in the year. Anyway, 2 more things to run through. Very, very briefly, what's happening with Eldenwood Craft. I am currently prepping for the East Anglia Yarn Festival. Did I talk about this in my December episode? I can't remember. If I did, apologies. If I didn't, I am vending at my first big yarn festival this March, the beginning of March, the 9th and 10th of March at the Norfolk Showground. I'll leave details in the description box below. I'm really excited. I'm quite anxious about getting everything just right, because that's my personality, really requires me to get it just right. I have been working flat out since the turn of the year, since the beginning of January. I've made something like, I'm up to about 80 or 90 project bags at the moment. I've got another 20 or 30 to go before I reach the point where I've got what I think should be enough. And I've got 2 weeks of yarn dyeing to get some skeins of yarn for the show as well. I'm going to have a few other little accessories. That's the plan. And I need to plan my stall, what it's going to look like, what do I need, all that sort of thing. My head is just, I mean, you can probably see it's grown with all the extra information I've got to store in there at the moment. And I will admit to having had quite a few dreams over the last couple of weeks about vending at a yarn fair, and it's gone horribly wrong. So that will tell you the sort of state of mind that I'm in at the moment. I'm really looking forward. I was just saying before the camera stopped, I'm really looking forward to it. And there will be some special guests with me on the stall. I've got my husband, he's coming. He's going to be vending, so come and say hello to Mr. Eldenwood Craft. And then a couple of others, friends will be there. And it's just going to be amazing. I'm so excited. But yeah, a lot of work. Really interesting about how much work goes into these things. So yeah, so there has been no shop update this year, and there will not be a shop update until after East Anglia. So yeah. Okay, the only other thing I'm going to share with you is I've written down in my notebook a few good things. Maybe that's going to be the title of this segment going forwards. For those of you that have been here before, this is where I talk about books and things. So I've started the year reading some fabulous books. I'm just going to share those with you very briefly. I will put pictures up here of the ones that I've not got to hand. I started and finished listening to a book called Wool by Hugh Howey this month. Nothing to do with the lovely yarny subject that we're all here for, but it's actually a sort of dystopian sci-fi-ish novel about people who live in an underground community, and It was really good. I'm not a sci-fi person. I do quite enjoy a dystopic novel. I massively enjoyed The Handmaid's Tale, and I really enjoyed Wool. It's the first part of a trilogy, and I will most definitely be listening to parts 2 and 3. The narrator for this first book, interestingly, was the actor who played Jane in the 1990s BBC dramatisation of Pride and Prejudice. Can't remember what her name is. Someone Harker? Can't remember. She was really good. I really enjoyed listening to her read this. But it was a long book, short chapters, and most chapters left you, oh my god, wanting to know what comes next. So if you've not read it, really good. Battery is flashing. Right, so I'm going to race through these. Still Life by Sarah Winman. Late to the party. Absolutely love this. 5 stars without a doubt. I won't tell you what it's about. You can go and read that for yourself. But it is one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. Love it. Currently listening to Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Amazing. Pretty sure it's going to be a 5-star book as well, but I'm only about halfway through. Reading on my Kindle Babel by R.F. Kuang, jumping on that bandwagon. Okay, halfway through as well. Not enjoying it as much as other people have, but I'm intrigued by it and I will keep going. There have been moments where I've thought about stopping, but I'm glad I haven't. But yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We'll see where it goes. What I've been watching this month, again, some crackers. Just finished last night, The Traitors. Amazing, wonderful. Have you been watching it? We have watched Oppenheimer. Wow. Killers of the Flower Moon. Wow. Good Grief with Dan Levy. Wow. So 3 really good films watched this year. And series that we're watching Of an Evening, Vigil 2 and Cobra 2. I will put links to all of these down below, and we are really enjoying our TV watching this January. Right, that's all. The battery light is going and I know it's going to cut out any minute now, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, please do give me the thumbs up. Like and subscribe if you haven't, because it's really important to podcasters to help us get the word out that this is a podcast that other people enjoy. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you again, and I will see you probably at the end of February for what I've been working on in February. Lots of love to you all. Happy making. See you soon. Bye.